All right, everybody, welcome back to the 18 Strong podcast. We are doing, I believe this is our third live episode, and we have a very special guest today. We have Trillium Rose, the Director of Instruction at Woodmont Country Club. She's a top 50 Golf Digest and LPGA teacher, 2017 Mid-Atlantic Teacher of the Year, and her name is pretty much synonymous with the words quality practice and trusted instruction. And so I am very pleased to introduce Trillium Rose in just a second here. I do want to say thanks to our sponsors for this week's episode, which is always Link Soul, make par, not war, our favorite golf apparel company. You can see I'm wearing my Link Soul Greenskeeper jacket here. Get my logo up there. And it's obviously one of the best brands of apparel you can wear on and off the course. Go to linksoul.com. or go to 18strong/linksoul to get your 20% off discount code. And I am going to welcome in our special guest today, Trillium Rose. Welcome to the live 18 Strong podcast.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
I'm great.
Good to be here under the circumstances.
Yeah, for sure. It's a very strange time for the fitness world, for the golf world, and everybody's making do. What's going on, first of all, at Woodmont Country Club? Are they able to play any golf up there? What's the status of the club itself?
Woodmont's closed, so it's in Maryland. Then Maryland had closed out everything, golf courses included. Virginia, you can still play. I'm pretty sure that the other the other activities around golf, like the restaurants, are closed, but not in Maryland. Maryland, we are totally shut down. So that means the grass is still growing. So yesterday, this was interesting. My boss, the director of golf at Woodmont, and the head professionals, the co-head professionals, they were out there helping the superintendent mow the grass and fill in divots.
Oh, wow. Taking a little different strategy as far as what the higher ups are doing at the club, trying to do all they can to pitch in. It's awesome. I bet that was a kind of a refreshing thing for them to do too, get out on the turf itself.
Yeah, I'm sure that, I was at the club too yesterday. I was doing a Facebook Live with members. I give a mobility class a couple times a week in the winter time. And so this was a chance to kind of connect with people via Facebook, kind of like what we're doing, but this was is a class, like, not strength training in any way, but mostly an exercise, a movement, stability, mobility class that focuses on the golf swing. So, we're doing the best we can to connect and stay on people's radars so that they have got at least something to do while everyone's inside, and something productive and positive and healthy.
What is your typical day looking like right now? I know usually are you out on the driving range most of the day and working with your clients in person? I'm sure you do a lot of online instruction too, but how is your day? Obviously it's completely different, but what does it look like right now?
Well, yeah, so normally right now I would be teaching, and believe it or not, I don't do a whole lot of online lessons.
Really?
I don't. I'm one of the few. I've been asked a lot to do it. I've dabbled a bit in selling, at a very small price, lessons with specific topics. We'll see if I pick it up again and decide to go in that direction. But for the most part right now, I've been doing all individual or group or just in-person stuff. And I think probably a lot of that's a function of my location and the job that I have. The club where I work has a lot of people that like to really work on their games. So that's just the situation I'm in, and so I have done that. Now, so because of that, most everything has now been, completely stopped to a screeching halt. So I'm home, and then putting time into my online stuff. So, I think probably most of you listening have seen Instagram, or you're on Instagram, and that's mostly where I've been putting stuff to Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, you have been a content queen over on Instagram, and really for the past couple of years, I would say, you've been putting out a lot of videos, putting a lot of instruction, a lot of practice tips. Obviously, your expertise is really, creating practice plans and solid ways for people to actually get benefits out of practicing, not just going to the range and hitting balls. So have you been doing just tips from home recently as far as different drills, or what does that look like right now?
Yeah. So I'll respond to two things on that. So you mentioned something that I definitely want to talk about, and that's practice plans and getting people from, point A to point B. From point A, meaning this is what I know my problem is, and this is what I need to do instead. And then how do you actually realize that? And what do you do in between the time you're spending with your instructor? So the way golf works in golf instruction right now mostly is you don't see your instructor every single time you go and play. Your coach isn't always there. It's just not the way it is. So if you have that situation, great. If you've got people with coaching model setups and you can be with them 3 or 4 times a week, great. But a lot of people don't have time for that either. They just want to get out there and play a little bit better. So backing that up a little, it's really actually possible for people to make big changes, but it takes a certain amount of time, and it takes focus, and it takes understanding what it is you're trying to do. So assuming that they got time right now, and if they want to focus on it, they can. Now, knowing what to do, this is where I come in, and this is where you come in. Hey, here's some things that can really help you understand what your problem is. And here's something that you may want to look to in terms of creating better technique, better form, better mechanics. And why does mechanics like this help? Well, because that happens. And you and I are really similar, in similar industries in that way, because you, in a way that's like, you don't want anyone to get hurt. You want health. You want to see some progress. And me, in a way that, you want performance, but you also don't want to get hurt. So that's what I've been doing. I've been trying to help educate people to figure out what they want, what they need to do if they want to get somewhere. If they don't want to shank it, if they don't want to slice it, if they want to get more distance, if they want to have more, consistency with their contact, blah, blah, blah.
Where do you see is the biggest opportunity that people have to make an impact on their game while they're at home? Let's say they don't have a setup where they can actually hit balls or anything like that. They're just inside. They've got kids maybe running around like most of us do. Where are some of the biggest pieces that they can really say, hey, this is an opportunity that I don't normally have because I'm not at home all the time like this, or I don't have little pockets in my day where I can actually devote time to doing this? Right.
Oh my gosh, this is exactly what I'm thinking about for everybody, that this is this golden, obviously a golden opportunity, but aside from the real negative aspects of what's happening, and there's some serious issues, and it's sad, right? I don't want to act like everything's golden and perfect, but just in terms of little sliver of the conversation that we're having, like in terms of making a movement change, we're in a golden opportunity. Mm-hmm. You can't go outside, or if you can, you can't be on a golf course. So guess what? We've taken away the distraction of the playing, and that's usually a difficult. It's hard to go out on a golf course with a project on your mind. Okay, I'm trying to get my trail arm to come in more. Okay, and I need my right wrist to be a little more. I'm trying to get in like this with a. Well, that can be great on a practice range, but it's really hard to play. Well, guess what? No one's playing. Okay, and you're not practicing on a range. So that means you've got to do it with just the movement. And so by taking away factors that complicate it, it makes it easier. Let me say it another way. Great time to be at home, to actually start moving and start looking at a mirror and start seeing little chunks, little tiny pieces. What does each brick in that wall look like? And that's, I could go on that part and sort of the specifics, but that's really what this is about. It's about just breaking down emotion into little bits, working on those bits until they become in a place where you want them to be.
Do you use any visualization with your clients as far as, when they're going through these motions? Are they maybe even working on, let's say they belong to your club and they know the different holes, they know where they've been, where they don't want to go. Do you use visualization techniques too?
Yeah. Yes. So visualization has been, and even so, I'll say it also just thinking about it. There was an interesting study, or few studies done on learning, and the researchers took a group of people and had them practice and mentally rehearse and think about what they were supposed to do. They took another group and they said, okay, you guys are just going to think about and visualize what you're supposed to do, but you're not actually going to do it. You're just going to think about it. And this group's going to do nothing. You're not going to think and you're not going to practice. Okay, so not surprisingly, the group that did nothing did not fare as well as the group that did and thought. But the interesting finding was that middle group that did the visualization, they actually did a lot better than the group that didn't do anything at all. Go figure. So your point of bringing this up, I think, is a good one for people, that you should and you can envision yourself doing something in a way, good form, bad form, where do you want to hit it, or don't you want to hit it? So there's a lot of value to that.
When you look at somebody that's trying to make a specific move in their golf swing, and let's say, obviously from my point of view, when I bring somebody in and I look at them, I'm always looking at the physical limitations. What's preventing them from maybe doing what Trillium wants them to do in their golf swing? But let's say we clear somebody of any movement restrictions and they have the requisite movements of whatever joints they are, but they still can't quite get that position, that technique, that movement, whatever it is that you're trying. Where do we go from there? What is it that's stopping us, and how do we then break that down so we can get over it?
Yeah.
Tough question.
It's like two parts. So one part would be, is the particular change that you want to make worth it? And how, so for instance, if you have someone that's done a certain movement pattern their entire life, and they're in their 50s, and they can physically do it, no problem, but it's just so much mileage behind them, that particular pattern. The question is the juice worth the squeeze? Like, is it really worth it? So I'm always asking that, because, and I'm asking it out loud, I'm asking it to myself, and that's how I prioritize what we kind of work on. It's really easy to diagnose an issue in a swing for me, super easy, and probably for you too. But the hard part is really figuring out for that individual what's going to be good for that person in particular. And so that's number one, is like, is it worth it? Number two, okay, let's suppose it is. Let's suppose, you know what, you're 12 degrees from the outside with your driver, you're hitting down on it by 7, and you have a massive slice and you hit it 140 yards, but your club head speed's 92. Like, that's, you know what, I have that person actually right now. So, all right, so let's move that swing direction a little more from the inside, but that's going to mean you have to set up with some side bend. That means you have to have a softer right shoulder, because your right shoulder's coming in. That means you have to feel like your trail arm is collapsing. So, with a few repetitions, with a few really focused hard grind sessions, we saw big changes in numbers, big changes, and he was over 200 yards with the drive. He could easily get to 230 with club head speed like that, but the technique was so faulty that it was holding him back. So, I mean, I saw what a tough piece of meat that was to cut through. And he did too, but he really wanted to do it. Okay, so let's say that that's the case, right? So that's the case. Breaking down, breaking it all down, breaking it down. So the last thing I want that person to do is to go out to the range and fire away at 90 miles an hour and just try to fix it going fast and going fall. You can't do it. Or you can do it, but it's a long road. That's the long road. The fast road, the fast shortcut road, is to say, okay, you know what? While you're home and doing nothing, visualize yourself. Visualize that right arm folding in. Visualize that right wrist softening. Do it in your chair when you're sitting there binging on Netflix. The more you do it, the more you figure out what's right. And here's the thing. Your brain's telling you, okay, this is what I want. this is what I want. You have to do it actually for that process of the thought to turn into an action. So that neuron fires, it sends a signal down through the inner neurons, innervates a muscle spindle, the muscle changes, the motor neurons are activated. So you're going through an actual process, a physical process of making the change. The more one does it, the more then you can, your brain's like, okay, I get it. I'm going to start to put that into storage. I get what that feeling's like. It's a pretty strong memory. I'm going to put this back here because your prefrontal cortex, it's like high value real estate. It takes a whole lot of processing power to get all of that information through. So it's like, okay, let's put it somewhere else so we can be more efficient about this whole thing. Right. And so that's a slow process. It takes a long time, and it takes being very focused. And that's what I meant by focused and time.
When you're working on something like that, do you pick just one thing like that they need to be working on? Or is it possible for them to work on a couple of things? Say in the off time, say you see them once and then they go a month and they're supposed to be working on that drill, maybe another drill, or do you just pick that one specific, at least specific area of the body or movement that you're working on and then progress to something else once they have that a little bit more dialed in?
So if I have to give like a soundbite answer, I'd say give them one thing. But the reality is maybe two things is easy. Maybe the second thing is like tempo, and that's an easy one. So that would technically be two things, but so I try to frame it this way. Or if somebody, sometimes I see people and they're like, you know what, you're expensive, Trill. I can see you probably one more time, or I drove from Philadelphia, and it's like, okay, I see you right now. I'm not going to see you for another time. I'm going to pack up, your list of stuff. I'm going to give you the progressions. You're not going to get to them now. You're going to start with this. You're going to get to that. You're going to get to this. But by and large, let's work through one line at a time, get it right, and then go to the next. Get it right, then go to the next. So I really like to keep things simple on people's plates. Like, yeah, maybe the roadmap looks complex, but like all you're really supposed to do while you're doing it is that one thing. You chase two rabbits, you'll catch none.
So given the fact that a lot of people are stuck in small confined quarters, are there any little pieces of equipment or anything that you have been utilizing or recommend people pull out of their bag or that they can start using to help work on different positions, different movements? I've seen a couple things in your videos that you've used.
Yeah, I love alignment rods. I love bubble whips. I love just because it looks so nice and they're colorful. But do you have a set of bubble whips?
No, I don't even know what a bubble whip is.
Oh my gosh, they're the hickory alignment rods with the beautiful.
Yes.
So it's so funny. I was sidetrack. I was walking through a parking lot, and there were, Home Depot alignment rods stuck in the ground, and I'm just thinking to myself, does anybody else think what I'm thinking? I'm thinking like alignment rod, training aid. So I love those. I love a mirror. Just a good standard mirror is your best friend.
Oh, for sure.
And I think there's some great training aids for certain people. I don't think there's one there's one magic wand. I think the Orange Whip is great for tempo. Orange Whip does a whole bunch of stuff. It's just, you don't need a owner's manual for the Orange Whip. You just pull it out of the box and you know what to do with it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's great. I think the super speed golf sticks are fantastic if you want to work on speed. I think the Plane Mate with Martin Chucks, I think that's a great thing for some people. It's worked really well. Foam golf balls, so easy to find. And I also like a molded grip and a cut down club. That's a little harder to do. You kind of need your golf shop to be open if they have a club fitting room. So I've cut down many a golf club that's been in the donation pile, cut down so that the shaft is about yay big. And then I slap on a molded grip. And so I use those in my mobility class. So it's a tiny little midget club, and then you don't have to hit somebody next to you when you're swinging it. But you have a club in your hand, so you've got the feeling of what you're doing, and you can kind of look at the face relative to where your hands and arms are. And, that's helpful.
I love that. I actually have a couple of those that a buddy of mine from one of the clubs here cut down a couple of years ago. And it's so great to either when you're at home, you can get in your positions, you can practice you can see where the face is, all that good stuff. But especially when you're in a crowded gym, it's probably the only way you can do it where you're not going to be hitting somebody off to your left or off to your right. Tell me a little bit more about your mobility class that you're doing with the members up there. I love the sound of this.
Yeah, it's great. And in fact, it was on Instagram Lives, and it's open to the public, so anybody can go on and look. So I kind of pulled it together based on inspiration from lots of people around me. You were doing, lots of other people. But the concept is, hey, let's keep people moving in the off season. So it's an off season program. But the reason I didn't know if this was going to catch on. It turned out to be a great thing. And the reason I like it so much is because it takes away the hit and it takes away the golf course. And we focus only on feel. Mm-hmm. Feel. So the class starts with a dynamic warm-up, something that you could just like plug and play and go into your round doing. So what are you going to do on the range to warm yourself up? So that's what we go through. And then we just go through the golf swing step by step. All right, let's talk about posture. So for instance, I'll stand up. See if you can. And so posture. So we're standing up, and I'll just say, okay, let's talk about a neutral spine. You've got a mirror, squeeze your glutes. Let's talk about what it feels like and do hinging from the hips. So we might just stand here and do this a few times. That in and of itself, for a lot of people, do that 10 times and you're going to feel it, right? Right. So, I call it a mobility class, but it's kind of a stretching, exercising class, but we're just doing very specific golf swing motions.
Well, it's just like you were talking about before. It's just repetitiously getting you into those positions, and really that's what's ingraining all those neurological circuits. That's what's ingraining. Sometimes people think that it's all about strengthening a certain muscle or getting it strong and doing an exercise, where just like your postural exercises, it's not the fact that you got to do rows to strengthen those muscles. It just like your bicep. If you do a bunch of bicep curls, it doesn't mean you're gonna automatically have a curled up flexed arm, but it's that repetition that's keeping you aware of those movements. And so I love the idea of just getting into those positions, going through those motions, and doing that again without the thought process of, oh my gosh, there's water on the right, there's a bunker in front of the green, those types of things. What else have you seen as far as the industry obviously is shifting with, well, first of all, because of what's going on in the world right now, but what other shifts are you seeing because of all these technological advances that we have? You and I are basically hosting a live TV show right now because of the internet, but the golf world is 100% changing, and I think this coronavirus stuff is only going to expedite what's going on.
I think I just lost you. Oh, what was that last point you said? What do we think is...
Oh, yeah, sorry. Where do you see changes happening in the industry, or where do you see it going as we kind of embrace this new technology and everything that's on the forefront?
Yeah, well, I don't have a magic ball, but I do think we're definitely online now. We are plugged in. People are plugged in. And if you didn't know about Instagram Live, now you do. If you didn't know about podcasts, now you do. If you didn't, people are forced to get on. And so now that learning curve, I think, is going to shoot up. There's people that were using it anyway. George Gankis has made a humongous name for himself as having a following of people that are following his teachings. I think he's an incredible example of the power of the internet, right?
Absolutely.
And he doesn't have that typical country club vibe. He's got hey, I'm going to do it my way, and I don't have to wear my hat forwards, and I don't have to wear, a buttoned up golf shirt. I'm just going to kind of wear socks, but I really love golf, and I'm going to show you, what to do. That's cool. Nobody's done that really.
Right. So
I think we're going to see a lot more people that the lines are a little bit blurred, country club versus, a street game. And I think we're going to get a lot more people who are going to know a lot more about what's out there, if not already. I've got students that are so much better educated. They're coming with so much more information that they found and they've harvested on their own and they put stuff together. And does it mean that they put it together and they've solved it? No, otherwise they wouldn't be seeing me. But I think a lot of people, right? I think a lot of people have done better because they have access to stuff. So, whether that means I've got to, get more present and give people more online, I don't know. Probably. We'll see what happens.
Well, I think it's cool that, now everybody has an opportunity as a coach or a teacher to start putting themselves out there. And I've started to see some very, very intelligent coaching, fitness coaches, golf instructors that I had never heard of. And then you start kind of watching some of their stuff. You start listening to what they're coaching, what they're teaching. It's like, man, where's this person been? And it's awesome that we all kind of now have that platform. On the flip side, though, we now have so much information. How do you help your clients stay a little bit more focused? Because you can go and get information on everything, good or bad. And now it's almost like overload too.
Yeah, you got that right. Well, that's, I guess, why I'm also busy in person. I had an example of this. So one of my students he's a great guy, but he showed a video of Phil Mickelson. Phil was talking about ball position, forward, middle, and back, and how that's just a simple solution. Well, I don't often tell people to change their ball position that extremely, mainly because it just complicates things. So one of the biggest challenges for someone who's really 10, 15, 20 handicap is bottoming out, figuring out where that club's going to hit the ground consistently. So now you're telling someone, okay, put it way up there, put it way down there. How is that going to change the swing? I just think it's too advanced for most people that I see. I'm like, I think it's fine for people that are really highly skilled already. In fact, I think that's great, and I do it myself. And I've got plenty of students that would do that, and I would recommend that. And I have recommended it. But I guess it's more like, how do you know when you need that piece of information? How do you know if it's for you at that certain point in your development? And that's a hard thing to know on your own. I agree with you.
Yeah. And I experienced the same thing with people coming in with exercise or mobility drills, or they're like, oh, well, I saw this on Instagram, or I saw somebody coaching this. And it's like, well, that's true. That's great information, but you can't do a flat-footed squat. So we can't even, we can't get there yet. The question, going back to something that we talked about earlier when we were talking about kind of overhauling someone's swing, and you said, first of all, is it even worth it? And so I think that that's a very, very big point to kind of come back to, because I see a lot of guys and girls that want to improve something in their swing. They want to do this or they want to do that. And for me personally, it's like, well, you've been working on improving your golf swing for the past 15 years, but I haven't really heard you talk about improving your practice yet. And so let's take somebody like that, where you look at them and you're like, we don't need to do a huge overhaul in your swing. Where are some of the places that you start for that person, saying, let's just work with the swing you have. Let's just help you score better. Because ultimately, I think that's what you want to do, right?
Yeah, mostly. That's mostly what people want. Yeah. It's like, what do you decide to work on? I think that's what you're saying. What do you decide to work on, and then what do you do?
Yeah, like so somebody that's watching this, they might have been battling with that for a while now, years and years and years. And finally, I'm thinking of one of my clients in particular. He has a setup in his basement. He's got a TrackMan in his basement. He's always working on his swing. And, 10 years ago, he was, I think, a 5 or 6 handicap. Now maybe he's in the low teens. And we were talking, and I'm like, well, was your swing that much better when you were a 6 handicap? And he's like, no, it was the same swing. I'm like, well, what were you doing different than you're doing now? Because you're still trying to fix the same swing, and obviously that's not working. But at one point, you played really, really well with this swing.
Totally. So it's funny. I think that there's a Scott Fawcett's, Mark Brody, Pete Sanders. These are people that have contributed a great amount in terms of our conversation of stats and choices that you make and the way you think about playing a golf course. So I just signed on with Arcos. I've been using Arcos for a long time. So this is the stats keeping device. So I actually have the grips on my clubs, and then there's an app. And so I can look in so much detail at my game. So I know, for example, that I'm usually long with my 7-iron. Okay, that's a choice. That's a club selection problem. That's not a swing problem. I see that, wow, my 7 or my 9-iron has like a little 5-yard spread, but my fairway wood has like a 50-yard spread. Okay, maybe now I know what to work on.
Right.
Or I'm always missing on the left. I'm always missing on the right, or whatever I'm doing. Or my proximity to the hole with this club is 50 feet. My proxy from this club is like 10 feet. Oh, let's work on the 50 feet. Let's work on the 75 foot. So I think practicing smarter, not harder. We all know that. But what is smarter? So I say, well, measure it. Just measure it. So you're not guessing. And I really like my students to have Arcos too, because then, first of all, my husband has Arcos. It's great because I can look at his numbers and we can talk about, all right, do this, do that. Like I haven't played with him in a long time.
Right.
But I know what his game is like, and I know where I can help him. So I do like having my students use Arcos. I hadn't had a lot of success with people just yet using it. This was the summer, so we'll see if I can get that out. But anybody who does have Arcos, like I think what I probably will end up doing, Jeff, is being available as a coach. Like I may not even see somebody swing, but I could like give somebody an Arcos, like give them the 1-2 and look at their numbers and kind of talk about what's going on that way. That's like that'd be a very unusual way to coach, but I think I would feel pretty confident about that. Much more confident than just like looking at one swing and saying, oh, this is what you need to do. Like I'd rather look at your data from your playing rather than your swing.
Right. Yeah, that'd be cool being able to kind of help them decipher what are the patterns that you're seeing or how to look at their stats. What are the actual facts showing in, what your numbers are? Because I think sometimes we have so much of this technology and it's hard to actually read and have it be useful. Sometimes it's cool to have the gadget and those things, but if you don't know what you're looking at or why you're looking at it or how that's going to help, to have somebody like you that can be kind of like looking over your shoulder saying, well, yeah, look at this pattern with your 7-iron or look at what happens when you're around the green. I think that would be invaluable.
Right.
Trill, we've got a couple of questions here from the live audience here, so I'm going to throw a couple of these in here. I've got one from Joaquin. Let me see. I think I can even pull this into the feed. Maybe not. There we go. Hi, Trillium. Do you work on the mental side of the game with your students? If so, what do you feel helps them the most?
The mental game. So for sure, I work on the mental game. I spend about 60% of the time in the summertime on the golf course with students. And I do that because that's where the game's played, and I want to see what goes on when they're out there. So inevitably, while we're there, the discussions start to weave in and out of how are you thinking about this? At this point, what's your thought process? Okay, you've just come off of a terrible hole. All right, guess what? New hole. So I used to play by holes of 3. So you just think of them as little vignettes of 3, 6, 9 holes. So you've got, 1 bogey per 3 holes or whatever it is. Maybe it's 3 bogeys if you're a bogey golfer. You can get 3 bogeys. Or here. So I think, yes, the mental game is a super important part. I don't claim to be, a PhD in sports psych. So I know that there's just lots of deeper stuff that other experts would kind of come in with than I do. But I absolutely think having a strong attitude, a positive attitude, makes a huge difference.
When you're working with clients, how often would you say you're taking them out onto the course for those playing lessons as opposed to just being up on the range working on swing technique? Or maybe I should ask it for the people that are listening that do have a coach that they work with, and maybe they've never had a playing lesson. How often do you think, or obviously they should ask their teacher to take them out, but how often do you think they should be out working with their coach there?
It's hard to say. It depends on what the skill that they're trying to work on. I am very, very lucky at Woodmont. We've got a beautiful, beautiful facility, so we can practice in the winter. So people can practice their hitting bays, and then I've got a heated teaching bay. So I tend to spend a whole lot more time, obviously, on the golf course when it's warm. So when it's cold out, we're taking advantage of that time, and we're just lifting up the hood, getting in the engine, replacing some parts that need replacing, working on stuff that people wanted to work on. You have the chance to feel it. You're not worried about the golf course. So that's usually a heavy, heavy technique time for me. It's off season, which would be the winter. And then as the spring and summer comes in, we're on the golf course all the time. How much should you be on the golf course? I think it depends. It depends on what your problems are. If you've got something that's really holding you back, like you're slicing your drives every time, half of the time your drive is out of bounds, you got to go in the range. So I think it kind of matters. It's in terms of what you're trying to do. But for me, I spend over half my time on the golf course, but that's mostly because my students have done the work in the spring and off season.
I love it. I personally have not gone out and taken a playing lesson with a pro, but I 100% see the advantage in. I mean, I haven't taken hardly any lessons in my life, but when I'm working with a lot of my clients, they'll talk about being on the range and working on technique and some different things. But I don't think that they understand that going out and working with somebody like you on the course can help them so much in their even just decision making when they're out there. I mean, for me personally, going out there, I club selection, distance control, what do I do with this lie? What do I do with that lie? I mean, I would imagine there's a lot of aha moments that happen when you're out there on the course with these folks. What are some of the bigger things that you see with them?
Totally. Well, every single shot's different. So it's like, all right, we're going to go out here. So I have you for an hour. All right, grab your clubs. We're going to go tee it up, tee off, see where it happens. You're in the middle of the fairway. Wonderful. Okay, now you're 170 yards out. All right, what club are you thinking? Well, I was thinking this club. Well, what's the carry distance? I don't really know. Okay, well, there we go. That's one thing we need to figure out, what your carry distance is. Well, let's hit it 3 times and let's see where those pitch marks end up. Because there's a bunker right in front. Like, okay, lesson already for the first 6 minutes, you've learned something about figuring out your carry distances. By the way, there's this very, very cool device called Rapsodo, which I've also just learned of and I love. So Rapsodo is a great way to know your carry distances, and this is an affordable device you can do on the driving range. Figure those out. So I think that's another option for people. So, all right, then you hit your next one. It goes over the green. Okay, great. Let's hit that shot. So now you've got a 10-yard shot coming back onto the green. You're in the rough on a side hill lie. When would we be able to practice that on the driving range? Right? Okay. How are you going to think about this one? All right, well, we've got to adapt. It's adapting. So when you're on the golf course, the skill is adapting. And you don't strengthen that ability to adapt and to solve and to figure out and to work and to think. You don't get to do that on the driving range. So once you have a good semblance of what you need to do, you got to get out there. You got to get out there and do it. And I like being there too, because I can kind of help people figure out how to solve stuff as we go through it.
I love that. Scott has a great follow-up question here to that. He says, do you have any advice for someone who has a very good driving range game but struggles to then take it to the golf course?
Yeah, get on the golf course. So forget the driving range. If your driving range game is good, get packing. Get out there and play.
Oh, I love it. Nice and simple. Good stuff. All right, Trill, before we wrap up, I just have a couple just fun questions to ask you as far as, just the whole situation that we've been enduring for the past couple of weeks. What Netflix shows are you binging on these days?
Oh my gosh, that Tiger show. Oh my God.
The Tiger Show, of course.
Have you seen that?
I started watching it. I think I'm 2 episodes in still. Yeah.
It's crazy. I can't even believe that. I mean, I can't even believe that's like, we keep saying to each other, what just happened? What? I mean, there's no, anyway, yeah, so that's the show.
It just gets it gets a little weirder as the storyline goes on. So I'm excited to continue. I've also started watching Ozark, the third season. Have you watched those previous episodes?
I started Ozark and then sort of fell off. I kind of fell off. Curb Your Enthusiasm is the other one.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We're
Have you seen it? It's funny.
I've seen some of it, and Larry David is hilarious. So
It's
yeah,
cringy. I cringe, but it's funny.
absolutely. We a couple other favorites: Arrested Development, and of course The Office. We've started watching The Office with our kids. Even sometimes it's a little dicey for our 9-year-old, but just classic.
Yeah.
All right, what any books that you're reading these days? Anything? First of all, just fun book that you've been reading, or anything that you would suggest to the audience listening that might be helpful in this time for their golf game or their fitness, or just enjoyable read.
So I have a couple of books. I should probably give a sampling. So Make It Stick is one of my favorites. If you haven't read Make It Stick, that's like the golf book that I recommend. And it's been out for a few years. They first went over to Harvard Press. Harvard Press turned them down, which is surprising. But now it's like there's a whole multitude of get better at home books. So Make It Stick's one of my faves. I'm reading a book. This is got nothing to do with golf or anything really. It's called Here All Along, and it's written by Sarah Hurwitz. She's a speechwriter for Michelle Obama, and she's Jewish, and she was not really a practicing Jew, and decided to kind of go back and learn about the religion for herself and figure out like what her identity was with it. And there's these incredible lessons, I'm not Jewish. I work at a Jewish club, but I have such a huge appreciation for the concepts, the traditions, like the strength of the community, and how the religion has been processed, through time, and how rabbis have the role of really giving those lessons. So anyway, it was like really fascinating and eye-opening, and for me, just very fulfilling to kind of learn a lot more about one of the oldest religions in the world.
And what was the name of that again?
It's called Here All Along. I think it's called Here All Along, Sarah Hurwitz, and then there's a subtitle which is Finding Meaning, Spirituality Through Judaism After Finally Choosing to Look There.
Wow, very interesting. All right, what has been the most challenging part of this whole social isolation, quarantine, being stuck at home thing for you?
Well, Jeff, when I was pregnant, I was on bed rest for 6 weeks in a hospital.
That's the last time we had you on the podcast, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, from a hospital, right?
From a hospital bed, yeah.
Dang. Okay. So that was, so eating hospital food, sleeping on a hospital bed, with people that were, having miscarriages all over. I was in a high-risk pregnancy. Anyway, that was hard. I got to be honest. I made the most of that, but I think, so for technically being on shelter isolation, this is really easy for me. The hard part, I think, is the broader socioeconomic issue with all of my friends, me included, but not to such a degree. I think my friends who are in jobs where they won't get paid at all, and they're paying, their bills are coming up. And so that for me is really, really hard, how this is going to hurt. This is going to hurt. Not to mention the people who have lost their friends. That's going to hurt too.
Mm-hmm. What do you think is going to happen with the golf world of coaches? I mean, just like you and myself, we both have a lot of friends that are golf instructors, fitness practitioners that all rely on, face-to-face interaction, much like you and I do on a daily basis. Do you think that when all this is over, will there be, and obviously you don't have a crystal ball, like you said, but do you think that it will all come back in full swing? Do you think we're going to see people kind of leaving the industry and going different ways? What do you think?
Some people will have to. I think, to feed the mouths that they need to feed. If you can't make any money right now, you're going to have to find something else. So unfortunately, that's going to be the reality that people will have to adapt. I do think that golf's going to come back. Life as we knew it will be back. It will. It 100% will. I think that people are finding other options as well, and that'll be a really interesting and I think great period of growth for us. The other options, what's going to be online and on the web, and what are people going to be offering? I think it'll only be good.
Yeah, flip side of the question, so we don't end on a downer on this podcast. What's been the best part about kind of being at home and everything in these past couple of weeks? What have been the highlights, kind of unexpected highlights?
Yeah, so the positives, the big positives, I get to spend time with my family. And I actually think this has truly been an incredible blessing, because we get to take a deep breath and we can just stop. How often does life stop for you? And you can catch up on your admin. You can go through those emails. You can fix the picture on that website that you wanted to fix. All these little tiny things. I scrubbed our patio furniture with a toothbrush yesterday. So I don't know. It feels nice just to have a simpler life, not to be racing around trying to go places. Appreciate the things that we have already. Appreciate the toys that we have, the clothes that we have. We don't need to get more, and take a deep breath. So for me, it's been a nice time to just sort it out, figure out what's important, what are my priorities, and do it with my family.
I love it. Where's the best place where people can go and follow you, find all of your information, and catch up more on Trillium Rose?
Right now it's Instagram. Thank you for the plug. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, but I'm mostly interacting with Instagram. It just, for whatever reason, it's the vehicle I'm on right now. And I love hearing from people. So, and I mean it. If you have something you want me to do, I always take requests, because it's a great way for me to get some ideas of what to do. So I'll see you there.
Awesome. And last piece of advice for the 18 Strong audience before we let you go?
Oh, I love your audience. I'm so impressed with you, Jeff, that you've been able to cultivate such a strong following of people, which just it's a tribute to you that you've created such great content, brought some good people on, you've got such good questions. And it's also a tribute to your listeners that they want to get better, and they want to grow, and they want to change, and they want to improve. So I'm really happy that you've come so far, and I really appreciate being on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, Trill, you are welcome anytime here at 18 Strong. I'm sure we'll do this again in the future once life is back to normal, which it will, of course. We're getting a lot of thank yous on our live feed here. Everybody loves seeing Trillium Rose on the 18 Strong podcast. So thanks again for joining us. And for everybody out there listening, I just want to say thank you for joining us once again. And if you want any more information on Trillium, obviously go to her Instagram page. You can also find her at her website. I believe it's trilliumrose.com. We'll have all of that linked up in the show notes once we get this up on the 18 Strong podcast in iTunes. Another big thanks to our sponsors for this episode, LinkSoul. Be sure to go to 18strong.com/LinkSoul to get your 20% off gift card. And we will catch up with you again in the next live 18 Strong podcast. We've got some great guests coming up over the next couple of days. We're ramping up the production here while we're all at home. So thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you guys soon. Train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.